seems. There's gotta be more. Gotta be more.
Come on and take me higher, yeah. There's gotta be more. There's gotta be more. I wanna know beyond all the rules and even past the school. I wanna know more, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I need a higher definition.
Higher definition.
I've been searching for more. When will I find it? When will I see it? What will I do? When will I know? Take me higher. There's gotta be more. Gotta be more. There's gotta be more. I need a higher definition than what it seems. There's gotta be more. Gotta be more.
Come on and take me higher, yeah. There's gotta be more. There's gotta be more. I wanna know beyond all the rules and even past the school. I wanna know more, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I need a higher definition.
Higher definition.
I've been searching for more. When will I find it? When will I see it? What will I do? When will I know? Take me higher. There's gotta be more. Gotta be more. There's gotta be more. I need a higher definition than what it seems. There's gotta be more. Gotta be more.
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Higher Definition Radio. I want to thank everyone for joining and listening and watching us as we continue on our 16-year journey with Higher Definition Radio. For all the countless guests we've had on, the countless conversations we've had, to me, this is one of the most important conversations we will have, talking about leadership and electoral stewardship and public service. So I'm very excited about the special guests we have, mayors and councilmen, people who are doing their part and hoping that all of us do our part also. We're going to go around and have a quick introduction, and I'll start with Mayor Williams. Please give us a quick introduction, where you're from, what area you represent.
All right, I'm Mayor Carlos Williams. I'm from the city of Chester, and we have about 5,600 residents in the city of Chester and climbing.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Mayor Williams. Mayor Moore, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good evening. I'm Mayor Tawanda Moore from what I like to call the big little town of Elm City, 1,300, finishing out my first term, which is 2 years.
Okay. And Mayor Blue, good evening. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Mayor Antonio Blue from the town of Dobbin Heights. Population about 850. I'm finishing my fourth term, finna go into my fifth term. It is the town that I grew up in.
What a probably honor and privilege for that. And last but not least, Councilman Bump Roddey, who, if you're in the Charlotte area, you see him on the news all the time. So, Councilman Roddey, tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
Yes, I'm Councilman Bump Roddey here in Rock Hill, South Carolina, representing York County Council. I'm the longest serving member, as well as the lone Democrat. And my district size is about 42,000.
And for a lot of people in this area, and I don't want to get myself in trouble, people recognize Councilman Roddey is the real mayor of Rock Hill. I'm not trying to get us started early, but for a lot of people, he's the people's mayor of Rock Hill when you talk about getting stuff done and making things happen. So thank you for all the mayors and Councilman Roddey for joining us. Want to start off, and I'll start off with you, Mayor Williams, talking about what made you run for office. What drove you to run for office?
Well, I served 2 terms on council, and I'll be honest, what led me to city council was an incident with the police chief and my sons. They left wrestling practice, and make a long story short, 5 police officers drew guns on them, coming from a wrestling practice, going to someone's house. And so that, I reached out to all the local leaders in our community, and they stood behind the police chief, and with him making, I think, 4 different statements that propelled me to run for office. And I served 2 terms. I was elected, served 2 terms on council, and then I chose to run for mayor, and I was elected for mayor. Yes.
Thank you. And Mayor Moore, what made you run for office? What was your brainchild to say, hey, I'm finna go tackle this out in the streets?
Actually, I served 1 term as a commissioner, which was 2 years. Someone talked me into that, and I asked them, are you crazy, when it was first brought to my attention? So having finally got a seat at the table as a commissioner, I noticed that there were things being served at the table that were not conducive to the broad spectrum of our population at large, and they talked me into running for mayor. So it was an overarching, I guess, compelling to run and do something for people that have no idea what's really going on behind the scenes.
And Mayor Blue, you mentioned you live in your hometown where you grew up. Come on,
I do.
Come on, you weren't trying to pay nobody back, were you? What made you run?
No, well, first of all, I'm retired military, so I served 25 years. And I first ran for county commissioner when I first came home. And I lost by 250 votes. I went back to the drawing board. And then I started looking at where I was from and what was going on. And the mayor at the time, he had been a 16-year incumbent. And he was not from here. And he wasn't doing the things he should have been doing based on the dollars that had come in, because he had acquired over 16 million in grants, and there was nothing to show for it. So I had the Nehemiah experience. If you're familiar with Nehemiah in the Bible, Nehemiah was the mayor of a town. My tax collection rate was 51% when I became the mayor. And I decided that I wanted to make a change and could make a change. And so, and which I did while my whole career in the military. So I became a change agent for the people of Dobbin Heights.
Oh, and that's a very compelling story. And Councilman Roddey, I remember when you first ran, and I think we had you and your opponent at the time in the studio together many years ago. I don't know if you remember that. But what propelled you or compelled you to run, not only for county council, but for mayor?
The initial interest came just out of a innocent conversation out in the community, speaking to someone. And at the time, I think they were having some issues that weren't getting resolved. And it was put on my plate that, hey, I think you should run for county council. And if anybody knows me, they know I'm a big sports fan. I do all the football, high school, college, NFL. I'm just a sports fanatic. And so, when you go home at night and you think about and you digest what somebody said to you, whether they made your day or ticked you off or just said something that intrigued you. So I looked into it to see what what would be the avenue for somebody like me to run? Being from Rock Hill, born and raised here, went to high school, college, work here. So I've been here all my life and people knew me. And obviously the first time that I did run, lost by 60, I think it was 62 votes. And I was kind of ecstatic because, being in a sports world, a blowout and a close race. And to me, 62 votes is a close race. And so I manned up, went back to the drawing board, stayed involved. In the next 2 years, I actually won by 69 votes. And of course, my at the time opponent came back a couple of times and I was able to defeat him. But then you fast forward to 10 years or so later, 8 to 10 years later, the mayor was stepping down. So we was going to have a vacant seat. So I just wasn't going to let anybody just have a free reign and just pass it off to their good buddies and friends. And so I jumped in the race and it was a 3-legged race. And the very first time I had the top vote getter, and that shocked a lot of people. We had to go to a runoff, and I eventually lost out by 500 votes. So that was kind of my it's not my claim to fame, but it's one of the things that's kind of been known. And that's why you allude to the fact that people call me the real mayor, because I actually was the top vote getter in that particular race until we had to go to a runoff.
Yeah, and your story and your path is probably one out of any of our guests I know a little bit closer, because this is my hometown also. And we'll get into some of the politics of politics a little bit later. But I want to start off with Mayor Blue asking, hey, what is the number one issue that you see you face? And for the people that's watching and listening and joining us tonight, please comment anything you would like to ask these mayors and County Councilman Roddey. Please do. So, Mayor Blue, what is the number one issue you see right now?
Well, the number one issue that I see right now, and that's a great question that you asked, is that we want to always be in the game, but we don't learn the rules of the game. Everybody else learned the rules and they know how to play the game, but we don't know how to play the game. And then when things don't go our way, we holler foul, but really there's no foul. They learn the rules of the game and they play by the rules, and they play strictly by the rules. And one of the things that I try to do is teach us that if you learn the rules of the game, it's hard to beat you at the game.
That is a very interesting point, and I'm going to save a question about the rules of the game with Councilman Roddey in a second. But Mayor Moore, what is your number one issue right now facing your community?
Probably trying to help educate the mindsets of my local citizens, who expect me to reach back in retrospect and change the last 40 years that in my opinion, they didn't hold those who preceded me to a level of accountability. Now I'm having to, and I don't try, to answer what went wrong 40 years before me. So it's really trying to transform a mindset of people, buying through education.
That makes sense. Mayor Williams, number one issue facing you, Chester County, right now as we speak.
I think Mayor Moore touched on it a lot. It's the mindset, changing the mindset. A lot of things happen in our communities in the past that now that we're in the leadership position, we're held at a different standard. And throughout the years, we've held Chester talkbacks to try to inform our community every quarter. One of the former council women that was on council with me, she was like Batman and Robin. Sometimes I was Batman, she was Robin, but we held quarterly talkbacks on different topics throughout the community. And it's still hard. That communication and that level of education to your citizens, I think, is the most important. If they don't know, if they're not informed, you'll continue to have problems in your community. So, yes.
Councilman Roddey, number one issue facing you and the community you serve right now.
Big ticket issue Housing, cost of living here in Rock Hill and York County. It's a little bit complex because I've served on the county council, in which the bulk of my district is incorporated city. So trying to navigate some things that will impact affordable housing or just the housing market is a tough challenge, because so much is controlled by the mayor and city council. We don't do anything as far as housing in the municipalities, but I would love to see something on this at the city level, where they're able to pick up some property, land that is, offer it to developers to build more affordable housing, and keep the rates, keep the price tag somewhat favorable to the consumer at or below market value. So housing is definitely the biggest challenge facing my district.
No, that's a great segue as we talk about, well, two segues. One, Mayor Blue mentioned playing by the rules, and the deck just strictly by the rules. And I want to start with you, Councilman Roddey, because I remember when you ran for mayor, robocalls from the school district was sent out and asking people to vote. I had never saw or heard that in my life, from our school district asking people to vote for election. So, and I'll ask this in general, because I know we have minority mayors and councilmen on, plus first female mayor in the area and first minority in the area. Do you ever feel like the deck is stacked? And that's not to place blame, but do you have that personal feeling sometimes that it's stacked?
Oh, the deck is definitely stacked, simply because, if you know anything about politics, sometimes it comes down to how effective you can be in raising funds. How effective can you be in turning those funds into votes? And when, as minority candidates, it's very difficult for us to raise the money that some of our counterparts and colleagues are able to pull in, just because our community is not known for being heavy donors to political campaigns. I think there's a big misconception, even in our community, that people or the government gives us money, or the local city or municipalities give campaign money. No, these are funds that you actually have to go out and solicit and rake in from people who support you or back you. And when you're in a city or county like York County, where we're from, the controlling interest obviously is on the other side of the political spectrum, from a business standpoint, from a inclusive and know-how standpoint. We're slow to the polls. We're even slower when it comes to putting those donations in the donation box to support candidates. But we are the first ones that get the call from not just our community. We get the calls from everybody, because when we're in these positions, we're held to a much higher standard. But the deck is obviously stacked. And going back to the robocalls that went out from the school district, that had never happened in my adult life, and it really hasn't happened since then. But that was just a connection that the establishment had to those major players over at the school district that was kind of wanting to swing this election their way. And simply because we know who respond to school board calls, we know who responds to certain calls from certain people, and that did swing more people out to the polls. And I think that was a real damaging blow, that had those calls not went out, that election could have turned a different way.
And I'll ask you, Mayor Moore, the same question about the deck being stacked, not to give your political opponent anything to say, because one of the worst things you can say as a Black person is someone's racist or sexist. Folks in this era will turn that against you. You don't know my heart. You don't know how I feel. But do you ever feel like, in your own personal experience, that sometimes the deck is stacked in political office?
I'll tell you what the number one issue or challenge that I face right now, it's and it's funny, you gotta laugh, is a BBF. I'm Black, I'm a boss, and I'm a female. So not only am I acting in the role as a mayor, I'm acting in the role as a town administrator as well. So can you imagine, I'll say a town that's 57% Black, that has not been governed by folk that look like you and I before. And so for the first time, the tables have switched, so to speak. So the biggest odd that is stacked against me, but really not, it's how you look at a thing, is a BBF. I'm Black, I'm a boss, and I'm a female. And I don't rule with an iron fist, but it's kind of hard for someone to get their marching orders daily from a Black female. And it has never been this way before. So I experienced sabotage. I experienced all sorts of things, and it's not how you get knocked down, but it's in the getting back up. My grandfather used to make us watch Tuesday night fights, and I hated it. But if you wanted to watch TV, and I learned from that. And grandfather said, "You got to be a good sport there, girl." So you get knocked out with these things. Of course, they're racist issues, but you just lean with it and you just rock with it.
Mayor Moore, you might be very hip now. Wait a minute, you saying some stuff now. We'll get back to that. Mayor Blue, you ever feel like the deck is stacked?
Well, I do. And the reason I feel like the deck is stacked, in my years of being the mayor of the town, this is the first election that I went unopposed. The first time I ran against 4 people. 3 votes separated me and the 16-year incumbent. And we had a runoff and I ended up winning. And of course, I've had 3 or 4 people each time around that I've run except this time. So when I look at the deck being stacked, the way it's stacked, I think for me is that they demand more out of me.
Absolutely.
They demand more out of me than they ever out of him. They come by my house. They knock on my door. I work at a funeral home. They come on my job. So, they demand a lot out of me. And then they'll say, well, you don't have any business working. We pay you all this money and you work another job. Why are you not at the office? And what most people don't realize, most mayors throughout the United States, except your largest cities, they're part-time mayors. They got jobs. They work other jobs. So, that's when you really find out how the deck is stacked against you. And my town is 99.9% African-American. We probably got 3-4 white people that live in my town. So I get all the havoc from us.
Mayor Williams, say it ain't so. You believe the deck? Come on now.
Well, I'll say this. If it's stacked, I say it like this. A lot of it comes from us, just like Mayor Blue said. I've received support from everybody in our community, white, Black, whatever. But I'll say the most criticism to our council, to the mayor, to things that's going on in the city, comes from our community. And over the history of the city of Chester, we've had 4 Black mayors in almost 200 years. One never served because they fought against him. You had Mayor Wanda Stringfellow. She was the first Black female mayor in the city of Chester. And you had Mayor Caldwell, George Caldwell. And I ran, and now I'm the mayor of the city of Chester. But I think that with the education, when people talk about slave mentality, we still have it in so many ways. If it's in the church or in the community, and we have to move away from that and educate our people, because I tell you, a lot of whites supported me, not because I was Black and I was different, because we had a white that was in the race as well. It was what I stood for and the vision that I had for our community and the work that I had done and put in our community over 12 years.
No, and that's hearing all the stories. I know politics can be very, very messy. And I want to ask a question about getting people out to vote. Like today is Sunday, and when I was growing up, it was nothing to see a politician or someone running for office, white, black, female, male, come to the church and solicit votes. But times have changed a little bit. I don't know if church folks going for that. Mayor Moore, are church folks still going for that in your experience?
Was the question for me? Are they still coming
It
to the
was.
church?
It was for you. Are church are politicians allowed, or even is that a part of it now, to go into churches to say, "Hey, I'm running. Here's what I'm about. I'm in your district." Do we still have that going on today?
I've heard some pastors that will allow it, and I've heard some other pastors say, you can catch them outside. So it's 50-50 with what I hear.
Okay. Mayor Williams, Chester, you knocking on church doors and talking to the pastor, or is that a thing of the past?
Well, like Mayor Moore stated, some churches don't allow anymore, but I did go to churches and speak at some of the churches, and I went to one church. I'll tell you this: I went to one church, didn't say anything, sat in the back, and it was my friend. I grew up with him, and he said he didn't allow it, but he did give me a big shout out and said, "Well, I can't tell you who to vote for, but that's a good person. He's been working in the community, so he did give me that support." But I didn't get up to speak, but he brought the attention to me, and the church was packed, and so I appreciate that from him. But it's about 50-50 now. It's not like it used to be, where you can go to each and every church and stand up and speak and give your little spiel about what you're going to do for your community. Yeah.
Mayor Blue, now come on, there got to be a ton of AME Zion churches, Baptist churches, just letting you just walk straight in if 99% of your your area is black.
Well, it's not the way you think it is, but I go to the churches in my community, so I see the pastors, I support the churches, I support every church in my community, whether it be if they having an appreciation or they're doing something. So it's a little different for me. It's a little different, and plus, again, like I said, the job that I work every day, I'm in churches all the time. So, it's a big difference. But to what the mayor said, Mayor Carlos said earlier, I was the Democratic nominee for U.S. Congress in 2014, first black to do it in my area. And I remember my pastor standing up in church and saying, "Listen, if you support this man and he wins, it's a win for everybody. Everybody wins." Say, now, think about it. If he helps and he's just the mayor of the town, what do you think he'll do if he's a sitting U.S. congressman? So it's a win-win for me. So I get the support of all the churches.
Councilman Roddey, I remember you knocking on some church doors in years past. Is that a thing of the past, or because the world has changed, drastically changed about politicians, and I say politicians in quote, and going to the church? What are your thoughts?
I used to be real critical when I saw that happening before I got into it. And then I realized if you want to reach people that care about the community, you definitely show up at the churches. But now, let's face it, since COVID, churches don't have the attendance like they did pre-COVID. Some of the pastors do still welcome me because I've had those relationships going back over 10 years. And some, it's instantly, as soon as I walk in, they have the ushers bring you down to the front row, and they're going to definitely give you that microphone. Then some are a little less hesitant because obviously they don't want to get in anything with the nonprofit or whatever going on with the 501c3 and church status and all. But it's still relevant to make your way around the churches. Even if you don't have that opportunity to stand up, people see you, they connect with you. And obviously after service, you know, you can speak and shake hands and kiss babies and do all that thing. If that's what you choose to do, but just having that presence in a physical church, yeah, I do think it's still relevant. And when I run again, it's definitely gonna be still a part of my campaign strategy to get around and visit those churches, because people want to see you wherever you can see them, at church, at Walmart, at the grocery stores, at the red light, you know, wherever someone can physically see you. Because one of the biggest things that in this business, and it is a business, is that people say, well, I don't see him. Well, I got a job, I go shopping, I go wherever I go, but just because you don't see me don't mean somebody else don't see me.
That's right.
Mayor Blue, I know we're up on election cycle. Next year's the presidential election, so more people vote at that time than any other cycle. What is keeping people from voting? When I say people, I mean people that look like you and me. What is keeping us from voting? It looks like we've forgotten what our parents went through, our grandparents have went through. And it's sad to see some of the voting numbers by demographics.
Well, Lamont, that's a great question, and it is very relevant today. What is happening with us? We think our vote don't count, and you got to get people to understand. First of all politics start at the local level. You know, now you don't get to meet the president, and so you know, but people think, well, my vote don't count. But then when you try to get them to understand, and I'll take North Carolina for instance, in the North Carolina and in the House and the Senate, they got a super majority. You know, they control everything that goes on now. And when stuff starts to happening, first thing they say, well, they doing what they want to do. They doing what they want to do because they get their base out to vote. They know what they're voting for and why they're voting, because they want to be in control. And when they're in control, they really in control. And so if we can educate our people and get them to really understand that your vote is more important than what you think it is, because think about something. Dr. King died for us to have voting rights. And still now, 50 plus years later, we're fighting for the same thing. We're fighting for voting rights, civil rights, and women's rights. And all of those things go back to who you put in office. And if you get out and vote, then we won't be fighting some of these fights, because we'll have the people in office to do what we need to get done, i.e. judges. And we don't realize how important those things are, and who do they affect the most? The people of color.
And Councilman Roddey, same question. You talk about losing the mayoral race by 500-600 votes or less. I mean, there's more people that show up at clubs and parties on the weekend. What do you think it is about us actually getting, not just talking about it, but actually getting out to vote?
It's apathy. And of course, you know, people thinking that nothing's going to change. They're going to do what they want to do. But I got a very good example of every vote counts, because my good friend Greg Holmes over in Clover, he won the mayoral race by one single vote.
Wow.
And you would have thought in this day and time, that should have been a wake-up call for everybody in York County that says your vote does matter, because one single vote changed the complexity of what we're seeing happening over in Clover, South Carolina. Mayor Holmes is up for re-election again, so hopefully he wins by a bigger margin this time. But certainly people just not trusting the system, or people not really, the magnitude of what a different leadership should bring more people out. I mean, we spend tons of money campaigning, running ads, putting up signs, and for us to see a dismal turnout is very disheartening, because you know that there's more support out there, but it's just not getting to the polls. You know, you can only make so many calls, you can only visit so many churches and mail everything out, but everybody knows election day when it rolls around. It's just people choose not to go to certain places. They know Black Friday's coming up. Those who want to go shopping at 5 a.m. in the morning, they're going to be up. They're going to be in line, ready to roll. They're going to have their carts. They're going to have their credit cards. They're going to have everything lined up for Black Friday. But where they're going to be at 3 weeks before that when Election Day rolls around. And elections coming up over in Clover and some of our areas on Tuesday. So we make preparations for everything, every single thing to go to work. We got people food prepping on Sunday to map out their food for the rest of the week, but can't go vote on Tuesday. You know, it's a struggle trying to get that in, and don't let it rain or be a bad weather day. Those who had good intentions of going now will find a reason. Well, he's going to win anyway, or he wasn't going to win anyway. Whatever fits their mindset, that's going to be the excuse that they plug in for that day. But it's really tough, and it's getting even harder for people to come out to the polls now.
Mayor Moore, what is stopping folks from coming out? Why is this big thing about just voting, just going and spend those 10 minutes in line to vote? Why do you think people are having a hard time with it?
Y'all might as well get some popcorn because it's going to take 30 minutes for me to explain this. Jealousy, envy, hatred, lack of understanding, and family dynamics with how they were raised. Jealousy, I'm not going to vote for her. Envy, I don't have the tenacity that she has or he has, so I ain't going to vote for him or her. Hatred, jealousy, envy, hatred, lack of understanding. I don't know who to vote for. These are the excuses that you hear. I don't know reading is fundamental. There was someone who actually told me that, Mayor, this is what they're saying in the streets about you. Look at her picking up trash and pulling back trash cans for the seniors, or a business owner who may be out ill who can't pull their trash can back. What is she doing? She just out there trying to be seen. Trying to be seen? I don't know how to politic. I just know how to show up. I really don't know how to go to the churches. And I don't want to go to the churches asking vote for me. But when I show up, it's a problem. When you tell me that the mayor before me, you didn't know who it was, who he was, you had never seen him. So we're crabs in a barrel, if I can keep it plain. Lack of understanding. I don't know who to vote for. And the family dynamics, how you were raised. If you were raised in your family, that generation before you says, I ain't voting for them. They ain't going to do anything for me. The term politics itself scares people until you say, there was a gentleman who said, and I was just introducing myself when I was running for commissioner. How are you, sir? My name is Tawanda Moore. I don't want to hear that politics stuff. But yet, if there was a leak, he all of a sudden wanted a conversation. If there was a tree that fell down, he all of a sudden wanted a conversation. If his trash wasn't picked up and his bulk goods weren't picked up, all of a sudden it's a conversation. So you know what I do? I said, you know what? Thank you. I sure I have time. Who did you vote for? No vote, no voice. But you're going to stop me when I want to pick up some Gala apples or some green grapes, and I'm going to make myself available to you. And very nice, nasty, I'm going to say, oh, yeah, it makes sense now, doesn't it? It makes sense now. Jealousy, envy, hatred, lack of understanding, and the way that you were raised.
Mayor Moore, you're in Elm City?
Yes.
I'm selling my house today. We're moving to Elm City. I'm picking up. This is what I need to hear right here. Mayor Williams, why aren't we voting? Why aren't folks voting?
Man, it's all the above. Everyone touched on it, but yes, you do all you can. You know, I'll say this. I grew up in Chester. I love my community, and I think you have to love your community to serve your community the right way. But the jealousy, the envy, the hatred, and there's no reason for it. There's no reason for it. I work just like everyone else. What I have is what I built for me and my family. And what I do in the community, I don't do it for show. I do it because I love my community. I'll tell you this. I wrote a letter because I knew the housing need and the shortages in our community and the dilapidated structures we had. So I wrote a letter to this ministry called Harvest Call Ministries. Make a long story short, they came into our community, a white organization based out of Ohio. They came in with 500 volunteers, did over 200 renovations, built 8 new homes, purchased mobile homes for people in our community. And guess what? 90% of the people that received the help were African American, was from our community. And throughout Chester County now, not just the city, but throughout Chester County. And don't you know, I was running for mayor, and we had this particular family that we built a new home for. I'm talking about no cost. All of these projects were free. All right. Said I didn't do anything. That I didn't do anything. And said, and this was the sister of the person that I helped. And this home that we tore down and rebuilt were her mother and father home, the house that they grew up in. So that's what's sitting there right now. That new structure is from the collaboration and the efforts that I put in with others in our community and outside our community, but I haven't done anything. And so the work that you put in sometimes go in vain. Like my wife always told me, she said, Carlos, you rip and run. And this was before this happened. She said, those people don't care. Those people don't care. But, and she said, I know I'm talking to the wall because I'm going to continue to do it because that's the person who I am. And when you go back, when you talked about how you was raised, I was raised around giving people who served the community and didn't look for anything in return. And so that's what I think my biggest strength is. I give because I love my community and I see the need. But it's a lack of understanding and all the above.
Everyone has such powerful stories and reasons that they keep going. And I want to touch on that. Why do you keep going if you know it's a thankless job? And I'll interject for the people first time watching. This is year 16 for High Definition. We started off in the radio station. There was a young lady killed, a teenager, and I'm sure Councilman Roddey remembers this, shot robbing a convenience store about 16 years ago. And I remember the news coverage being so slanted towards the officers who killed this 15, 16-year-old girl that there was no outlet from a minority voice like, hey, what would make a 15-year-old lady go try to rob a store? You know, is it gang initiation? Is it money for something else? And I just remember that need being so great. Hey, we need another voice out here. And we need to show us as African Americans in a positive spotlight. So the birth of Higher Definition comes from that, approaching the radio station, say, hey, can we have a platform to talk? And don't get me wrong, very conservative station, but it served the needs to launch into spotlighting African Americans. During COVID, did over 200 spotlight videos, just spotlighting individual people out in the community doing positive stuff, like that voice. But I know in the background, there's people hating. They just want to be seen. They doing it for this. They doing it for that. Like, no, everybody's volunteering their time and effort to put people on, like these great mayors and county councilman Roddey, to make our space better, to show Black people doing better, not always on a mugshot every time you see them on TV. So I get that thought. So Mayor Blue, what drives you? What is your drive? What wakes you up every day and gives you that why you keep doing what you do?
The Bible says it better than anything I know, to whom much is given, much is required. And then a prophet will never get his just due in his own village. In the village I come from, I've been given all my life. And when I look back at my 25-year career in the military, I was a giver. What did I do? Crazy enough, I come home and get involved in politics. Not only do I get involved in politics, I was the president of my local branch of the NAACP. So I've been giving and giving and giving. That's all I know to do is, beat me up, let me come home, let me rest for 8 hours or less, and then I'm ready for you to beat me up again tomorrow so I can help you get where you need to get. Because the one thing that I do know, my people perish for lack of knowledge, and I don't want us to perish anymore. I want us to succeed and do better at what we are doing. So that's what drives me, because my mother would come back from the grave and beat me down if she knew I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do.
Mayor Williams, what's your why? Why do you get up every morning and keep pushing?
Yeah, because I saw it growing up, and I walked the streets in Chester, in the city, from neighborhood to neighborhood, and I saw over time how those neighborhoods went down. And when I was growing up, you had a sense of pride because a majority of our community, we owned our homes. As they passed on, their children allowed those homes to to be dilapidated. They moved away, and we lost a lot in our community. And so when I walk around my community and see the need, that drives me each and every day to reach out to want to find grants and other opportunities to help our community.
Mayor Moore, what drives you? What's your why? Because it sounds like you fighting and scratching and you got some haters on your back. What's your why?
I would say, in the most simple form, a heart of conviction to help people that don't even know they need to be helped. To help people that don't even know they need to be helped. Mayor Blue spoke about Nehemiah. You guys can read it in your own time. But he was determined to stay on the wall. He had a calling on his life to rebuild. And before he even set his hand to begin rebuilding, he prayed and asked God for good success. And there was a Sanballat, a big bad wolf that came about and wanted to knock his every effort. But Nehemiah was determined that with weapons in one hand and tools in the other, I'm going to stay on the wall. I'm going to stay on the wall. A heart of conviction for people that don't even know they need to be helped. I carry a big broom with me, and they don't know I'm sweeping every single day. For people that don't even know that there's dust that's been pushed under the rug.
That's deep. Councilman Roddey, that's hard to follow up. I'm telling you, I might move out of York County and move to Elm City now. So I'm just giving you a warning.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump on that wall. And what was that favorite saying? You want me on that wall, you need me on that wall. We're fighting fights that people don't even know we're fighting. And like she said, we're fighting for people that don't even know we're fighting for them. We're igniting fires that need to be lit. We're putting out fires that need to be put out, and we're fighting fights that need to be fought. When I first got started, the saying is, you get in, you want to learn, you want to make a difference, you want to do certain things. And now over the years, after being in it for 13 years, the motivation has obviously changed for me, because I see now what I'm doing even more, not so much just for the community. It's more for, part of it is representation, so that people can see that we can do as good or better job than some of our counterparts. We can be an inspiration to some of our younger, up and coming talent, to motivate them in whatever field they decide to go in, whether it's political, whether it's business, whether you just going to work and seeing people make an honest living. One thing that I take pride in with sitting on this county council is I'm one of very few that goes to work and swing shifts. I sit up there with 2 attorneys. I sit up there with business owners, so that's the environment I'm in. But here I am, grew up in the neighborhood that I grew up in. We didn't have much, and I'm swinging shifts. I got a college degree and I'm doing things. So that should be an inspiration to not just my kids and my family, but people who need to see someone of color building and living and still able to do things in the community, because my family and I, we're very visible, from going to work, from going to meetings. My wife's over the Booster Club. So just being that positive image and that role model, to some, we don't live a perfect life. We don't live in a glass house either. But I see now my role connecting with people who, whether it's on a sports level, whether it's on a political level, whether it's just, hey, this is my classmate, we grew up together. So now it's more of a combination of those 12, 13 years. It's not just one specific thing, but different groups. The method or the purpose is different, because when I'm around some of the younger guys, when I walk in the room, the attitudes change, the conversation change, and I recognize that. So I fill in where that part is, and then when I go into a different room, it's a different motivation, it's a different purpose. But now it's just recognizing who needs what from me and what level for me to give it to them at.
And that's powerful, something you touched on about imagery. And it's what I was saying earlier. Like, a lot of us didn't grow up seeing African Americans or women and African American women in key roles as lawyers, attorneys, mayors, judges. And now we have an opportunity to see that. How important is that to you, Mayor Blue? The imagery of representing. I know you're in an all Black city, but how important is the imagery outside of your city? Because I would imagine neighboring cities are not all Black. And, if all Black people in one area, that means there's an all white area right near you somewhere.
Image is everything, because when people see you, they see you the way you are. And an example is, I have a 16-year-old daughter. So my daughter says, Daddy, you act like you're white. I say, tell me, what do you mean? And she'll say, well, you don't come in the room rowdy and you won't turn it up. No, I won't. I say, because that's not what you're supposed to do. I say, you got to come in the room like you got some sense. You talk to them. You got to find out what the problem is and figure out what's going on. And image is everything. Because if you think about it, in our community, growing up, we're taught, keep your good name. Your credit means something. Big Mama raised you right, and you don't want them people to look down on Big Mama, or your granddaddy. So image for us is everything, because we are held to a higher standard than they are. They can get away with doing anything they choose to do. We can't. We can't get away with doing nothing. So we gotta be right and keep our image up, so that as leaders, and you take all of us that are on this roundtable discussion right now, we can all go somewhere and dress a certain way, and they'll look at us strange. But our counterparts, they can dress any way they want, and they won't even pay them any attention.
Mayor Williams, image. I see you looking sharp. You got that look. How important is imagery within the community?
Well, I'm known to be a dresser now. I always try to dress, even if I don't have a pot. What they used to say. But I grew up. My mom, if you can look at our pictures in this house that I'm sitting in, I'm in my mom's house eating Sunday dinner. I don't think I wore jeans until high school. You understand? My mom always had her boys, and she was a young mother. And we went around town, and I can remember all the women, the elderly women, say, Carrie Ann, those boys so sharp. And so I say this, I raised my boys how my mom raised us. That image where you can walk into the room and you can change it and don't feel inferior. When you walk in that room, you can speak. I mean, you on the same level. And so going back to the jealousy, and envy that Mayor Moore spoke about. I had people, when I talk about, and I looked at the image, how I sent my sons to school with bow ties on. They twins. I sent them to school with bow ties on, and that image. So throughout their high school, their middle school, their elementary, they wore bow ties to school and wore uniforms, khakis, went to Old Navy's and bought khakis. But this is the thing. You have to set the standards. We have to set the standards for ourselves. And I said, don't let anyone define you. I don't let anyone define me. They can say anything out there in the street. I know who I am. And I tell my kids the same thing. Don't let others define you. And so when we talk about education, my niece, on yesterday, before we went to the South Carolina State game, I took a video. I said, tell me what you said again. She said, she asked my mom, she said, Grandma, get dressed. Let's go to the library so she could read. Nah, I tell you, I raised my sons good, and I think very well. But that's the first time I heard a child in this day and age say, Grandma, get dressed so I can go to the library. And so I asked those questions. I was like, why do you want to go to the library? Why do you want to read? And she said, so I can learn about the atmosphere, so I can learn about other books and other programs. And this is a 7-year-old child. So the image is everything, is how we are raised in our family and how we present ourselves out in public.
Mayor Moore, I'm gonna ask you, and I think you're a minister or in ministry and a stylist. How important is imagery to you? Because I know just as humans, and then Black folks on top of that, as a woman, every hair better be in place, those nails better be sharp. How important is the imagery for you and your community?
I blame my mama and my daddy for walking with my head held high. I blame my grandparents for walking with my head held high. In high school, I used to walk around with a briefcase, my math book in it. I was 8 or 9 years old watching Oprah Winfrey saying, one day my name will be great. I didn't know what I was talking about. But imagery is just that much important, that the foundation that I was nurtured in held their head up high. With my grandfather being a chief warrant officer up in VA and a history professor, and coming from a line of folk that said, make sure you read everything. So the foundation was set before me that I didn't know how to walk around with my head held low and down. That's not what I see. So the imagery is so important to me because I saw it before me. And I want the person and the young person coming behind me, the one who has parents and had modeled behavior, and the ones who had no parents. I'm going to be that very person that I looked up to for some child. When I rode through my local park, a neglected park by an African-American woman named Alice Spivey, who donated land to the town of Elm City, and it's been neglected. I want to be, when I rolled up with 2 Black young males and 1 white yesterday with a basketball in hand, ready to get into the park. They couldn't get in because I had my public works department padlock the gate. Why? I said, you guys want to play basketball? Yes, ma'am. I said, well, the gate is locked for right now because we're redoing this park for you. Really? We're getting you new goals. We're going to extend the basketball court, cut down some trees, and I don't want you to get hurt. I'm imagery for them to see that if she's done it before, I'm going to be the mother to the motherless. I am imagery because I've seen imagery.
Very powerful. Councilman Roddey, I don't know. Y'all about to lose a York County resident. I'm moving to Elm City. I might go to the park and try to set up. How important is imagery to you? And I know you do a lot and you're involved in everything. Like, you can't turn on the news without you fighting or advocating for someone. but you always are looking the part and talking the part. How important is that to you?
Oh, it's up there to the point where I have to evaluate. I have to say, I have to take care of my hair, my skin, my clothes. Sometimes I want to just run out to the store and grab something, and I look. I say, well, I don't want nobody to see me like this, because when people see me, they expect me to look a certain way. So I may not even run out to the store for a quick second without putting on something that looks somewhat the part. But when I make, whether it's an appearance on the news or making an appearance at a community event or just being out, being who I am, I have to take note of the expectation of what I'm supposed to look like. How am I supposed to act? The environments that I'm going into. So it's right up there, right next to knowing what you're doing, because sometimes people can look at you and get the wrong vibe because of your image, because of what you have on. If your hair, for me, if my hair's not cut, my face not groomed, I'm trying to grow a little beard because people are saying, "Oh, you look awful young," and so I'm trying to grow some facial hair. But before, and you gentlemen may recognize this, if you look at some of our counterparts, very few of them have facial hair. So the part says, hey, you need to be clean cut, hair groomed, suit nice. I don't like wearing neckties when I don't have to, because there's so many times I have to put on a necktie to go into meetings and do certain things. So if I don't have to put on a necktie, you'll see me not put on one. But I have to pay close attention to the presentation, and it's up there. It's up there second to knowing what you're doing and how to be a professional. And part of that is a dress code. Part of that is mannerisms. Part of that is acknowledging people when you're going out, because one of the biggest criticisms that us elected officials get is that maybe he didn't speak to me. Well, did you speak to me? I'm not always in campaign mode. I don't always see everybody, but we speak to people when we're spoken to, and we speak to people when they don't want to speak to us. So just trying to hold that line so that we don't turn off people when election time come, or when we need to rally the troops to come together for a common cause. Don't give people that little out not to support you. So that appearance thing is really, that imagery is real high.
You just said something that sparked something I discussed with a lot of people, and some people agree, some people disagree. And when I say it, this is not a political thing, but more of an observation. Our first African-American president, President Barack Obama, had to be all those things. He had to look the part. He had to be well-dressed. He had to be very articulate. He had to be a lawyer. That was the first. That's the way America had to accept the first. And I'm sure Mayor Moore, to be the first female, the first African-American, you had to be some of those things that people, it had to be just right for, because people can't sometimes take the multiculturalism that's in African Americans unless it's a certain way. It's a strange dichotomy that we have in this country, but it's still true. It's almost every day you look at the news, there's the first African American doing this, and we're in 2023, and it's still the first. As we get ready to wrap up our show, I do have one question before I do final comments, and this wouldn't be higher definition without me asking something off the wall. And I'm gonna start off with you, Mayor Williams. What's the craziest request you received? Somebody called, the cat out the tree. They need the lawn, their yard cut. I know they got to be at least one crazy story out there somewhere. Somebody call you to get the lint out the dryer or something.
I think the craziest thing, I don't know if it's really, well, it could be crazy, but this young lady was in the house. They had her apprehended. The police had her apprehended. She wanted me to come over and tell them, to allow her to leave the house after she'd been caught with drugs. I call the mayor. I'm gonna call Mayor Williams. I know him personally, and she did have my number.
All right, man.
She said, "Can you tell them just let me leave for a few minutes and I come back?" I said, "No, ma'am. I don't think I have that much power." But she had got caught with drugs, and they had her apprehended in the house, and she wanted me to come over there and tell the police to let her leave. So I think that was crazy.
I'm going to Mayor Blue next. We started off on a hot roll with that one, but Mayor Blue lives in a city that's 99% black. I'm sure somebody want an official spades game tournament going with the city. Come on, Mayor Blue, give us something.
Well, to be honest, really, they don't really ask me nothing crazy, because for one, they know me. So they know that I'm a kind of no nonsense kind of guy. But probably if I had to think about, and you know, my mind has got to run through 16 years of a lot of stuff. And I would say probably the craziest thing that I've had to deal with in my town, period, is when we've had shootings or when something like that take place. I normally stay in the house. I don't come out. I know what's going on now. I'm in tune with what's happening, but I just stay in the house to kind of let the police do their job. And then I'll come out, and then people will say, "Well, the mayor called the police on us." Like, I'm in the house. I didn't call the police. You started shooting, and that's what made the police come. And they got a job they got to do. So a lot of times that's what I'll do is I'll stay away and let them do their job. And then the craziness comes, then I'm to blame. I'm to blame for what has happened. You know, and I'm looking like, I didn't do that. You know, I'm home, minding my own business. So you did it, but I get the blame. So, you know, that's kind of, for me, I get the blame for a lot of crazy stuff.
So Mayor Blue, they say you dry snitching in the community. That's what they trying to say.
No, they don't say I'm dry snitching, but what it is they know, and this is my rule of thumb. The streets belong to me. The dirt and everything else belong to the police. You got to be lucky every day. They don't need to be lucky but one time. So guess what? You keep doing what you're doing, they going to get lucky one time. And the one time is going to alleviate all the problems I got.
I like it. I'm going to Mayor Moore since I'm a future resident of Elm City, North Carolina. Mayor Moore, come on. I know you ain't got some crazy calls about something.
Never mind a phone call. They'll come knock on the door.
Please share one. Please share just one.
I got a water leak. I'm like, it's 11 o'clock at night, and let me go get some tools, I guess. It's a water leak. Or can you help? And my boyfriend need to get his stuff out the house. Can you come and sit here while he get his stuff out the house? We got a system in place. But like Mayor Blue, Mayor Williams, we're supposed to solve it all. They're going to come to the house. And the list goes on and on. I don't fix water leaks. We got a public works department. Please call the front office, put a work order in. You're going to have to call 911, ma'am, with that restraining order stuff. That's outside of my job description.
Councilman Roddey, now you in the great city of Rock Hill, just a stone's throw away from Charlotte. I know you ain't got some crazy calls.
The first thing that came to mind was a gentleman reached out to me. He said, man, my neighbor want me to pay to have the leaves blown out his yard because the leaves are falling off my tree into his yard. So two neighbors are feuding over leaves falling off one neighbor's tree into the other neighbor's yard, and he wants the guy to pay for it. I was like, well, I don't think you're responsible for the leaves wherever they fall. That's an act of nature right there. So you might just tell him he can have those leaves and blow them leaves, rake those leaves, whatever he got to do. But that is not the call that you make to your county councilman when leaves are blowing off your tree or your neighbor's tree, and you want to hold somebody accountable for the leaves falling. So, and the ironic thing is, I've been to this gentleman's house. I've been to cookouts at his house, and they've been neighbors for years. And I'm thinking, y'all live right next door to each other, and y'all can't get along with this. But that's when you know you made it, when you got about an acre, well, a little over half acre, but your trees lining the property, nice community. But that's the only thing y'all got to complain about in this neighborhood. Y'all have really made it.
This has been a great discussion. We're going to work our way around, and I'll start with Mayor Williams as we close out. Any advice or anything that you would like to tell people? You have the platform right now. Anything you would like to tell people in closing?
Yeah, I would say that, if you haven't been to the city of South Carolina, we have a lot of things going on. And when I got elected, I said it's a new day. We hit the ground running in the past 9 months now. Not since I've been elected, but over the eight months, we've done more past some critical ordinances. And that one ordinance that you spoke of earlier before we became live was the hate crime ordinance. We are one of the first in the state of South Carolina to adopt that ordinance. Some major cities in the state of South Carolina have Greenville, Charleston, and a few others. But I'm proud of that ordinance to be adopted in the city of Chester. But we have a lot of things going on. We're receiving a lot of grants, a lot of activity downtown. We have a lot of development coming to our, and we having a lot of people move from Rock Hill coming to Chester because they want more space, from Fort Mill, from Charlotte, from Columbia. So if you're looking for a place to reside and to move to have a nice, quaint downtown, I just presented to council, and it's in the works now for a social district. Charlotte just passed theirs. So by the first of the year, we should have our ordinance for a social district in the city of Chester, where you can be able to purchase a cup, drink in the spaces downtown, drink wine or beer, and to create that atmosphere and create entrepreneurship with nightlife downtown Chester. And we're going to beat Rock Hill to that, hopefully. So, yeah.
I don't know what you were talking about, folks moving from Rock Hill to Chester. I'm moving to Elm City, but that's a whole different discussion. I'm going to be next door neighbors with Mayor Moore. So we can talk about all this craziness. Mayor Blue, any final thoughts, anything you want to say?
Well, this is what I'm going to say. It's been fun. And hopefully we can keep this dialogue going.
Yes.
But what I would leave with you is this. Back during the civil rights movement, Dr. King went to a university to speak. And there was a basketball player that he went up and talked to, a young black man. He would be a combination of Michael Jordan and LeBron James. He was like Michelangelo with a paintbrush. And Doc looked at him and simply said to the young man, he said, "What do you have to offer for the movement?" And the young man didn't have an answer. So the next morning, Doc went in his office and he looked up on his door. There was a 3x5 card, and it simply said, "I sought my soul, and my soul I could not see. I sought my God, and he eluded me. I sought a brother or a sister, and I found all three." And that's what I'll leave with you tonight. If you search your soul and search within, and you talk to God and you can't find it, if you talk to a brother or a sister, I guarantee you'll find what you need to accomplish what you need to get the people in your cities or your towns to do the things that you need them to do. God bless you.
Thank you for that. Councilman Roddey, any final words?
I'll just say real quick to Mayor Carlos Williams that people are moving out of Rock Hill to Chester because they've run the cost of living up so high. People are actually looking for other locations, and obviously Chester is an up and coming area that has a little bit more elbow room, a little bit more affordability. So it wouldn't surprise me to hear that people are looking for another avenue to fill their housing their housing need. But what I would leave the listeners and viewers with is that we, the four of us on the screen right now, need more in our various communities to get involved, whether it's from a local community advocacy part, boards and commissions, getting involved in the political process. Because one of the things that I've heard the most is that I don't get involved in politics. But what I tell people, you may not get involved with politics, but politics is involved with you from your every single daily stroke of your life. From at the local level, we're more involved than the president. We're more involved in Congress. We're more involved in the Senate, because we control your taxes, we control your local ordinances, and we definitely have a lot more pulls on those purse string holes than some of the other avenues do. But just encouraging people to get involved, get your children involved, and teaching them the very importance of voting, running for office, supporting people in office, getting involved with campaigns, because we wouldn't be sitting in some of these seats that we're in now if we didn't have community support, job support, organizational support, neighbor support. And I like to say, I'm just the face of a lot of voices. I'm the face of a lot of voices. People bring things to the table that I become an advocate for. It may not be my passion, but if it's a concern of yours, it becomes a passion of mine to resolve it and get some answers and get some things done that will help, whether you need an understanding or you need a breakthrough or you need to get something resolved from that situation. But just basically getting involved at whatever level. Not everybody's going to jump in and run for office, but you can jump in and help on somebody's campaign. You can jump in and coordinate something that makes that person's run or that person's office or team work a lot better and go a lot smoother in the community. So I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for the many men and women who sacrifice their time, their talents, and efforts to get me to this point. Because it's not just me; I'm standing on a lot of shoulders, just as many of my other three colleagues on this podcast is. So we recognize that, we embellish that, and we're here to do a just and fair job across the board for everybody.
And last but not least, my new mayor of the city I'm moving to, Mayor Moore.
All right, so thank you all for being part of this platform tonight. So I'm going to speak as if you guys aren't here, and I'm going to talk to every young African-American, male or female. And for those who are in my community that says she's not for the blacks, she talks white. Well, let me tell you this in a matter of about 30 seconds or less. I know a little bit about his African-American history, where I came from. But if you guys pick up and learn that on that voyage, on the Middle Passage from Africa to the Americas, how we were stacked like bunk beds, about 10 on a tight ship, bound in chain. And as your ancestors from the top bunk, as they defecated and urinated and it fell and it rolled down each bunk, and half of our strong black male fathers or mothers who jumped aboard or boarded ship just so that they would not have to live and be transported in such conditions. The only reason why I'm standing in this position today is because somebody sat down and I decided to stand up. So please, madam, sir, young male or female, take an active interest, because you're at YouTube University and TikTok College of Fame. Look up something about your history so you won't say she's talking white and she's more for the whites than she is for the blacks. If you only knew your history, you would stop sitting down and you'd learn to stand up.
Yes. Powerful way to end. This has been one of the great shows, and we have doctors on, we have psychologists on, we have attorneys on, but this group to me represents the real heart of America, people that's actually volunteering their time to make it better for our communities, and people who probably experiencing a lot of hatred, and a lot of the hatred from internal, not external. We got to do better. We must do better. We must. And I want to thank everyone for watching and listening, for supporting us. And I want to thank the people who are praying for these mayors and council people or councilmen, because prayer changes things and people go out and sacrifice their time, take away time from their home life to make our community and our world a better place. And that's what's needed, not just talking about it, but actually taking action. So from Higher Definition, I want to say thank you very much for all 4 of our guests. And I hope we can get this conversation going again soon, because it's what's needed. And there's so many different civil issues we can discuss on the individualized basis. I think right now, I just saw Councilman Roddey on TV advocating for people who are getting evicted from their apartments in some kind of scrupulous manner. Like, those things are real. And if someone is not divorced for you, you're going to lose your money, your credit, your name, all in a blink of an eye, and no one's going to care because life is going on. But thanks to these great mayors and council people who stand up for us, we owe them a huge debt of gratitude. So thank you for all of our guests tonight. And from Higher Definition, have a blessed and safe week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.